The version of yourself you cringe at today was once the version you worked hard to become. The haircut, the opinions, the messages you sent, the jokes you made. At some point, all of it felt completely normal, maybe even good. But now, you find an old photo, or an old message, or an old video of yourself, and before you even think about it, the embarrassment arrives, instantly. Almost like you're looking at a completely different person. And here's the strange part. The stronger the cringe feels, the more likely it is that you've changed. So why does your own past suddenly feel so embarrassing? You scroll back through old posts, old opinions you stated with total confidence, old jokes that felt clever at the time, and the cringe arrives instantly, faster than thought, faster than reason. It's not that the old version of you did something wrong, it's that they no longer match who you are now, and somehow that mismatch feels personal, almost like betrayal, except you're the one being betrayed, and you're also the one who did it. Here's what's easy to miss. The discomfort you feel isn't proof that your past self was foolish. It's proof that your standards have moved. You can only cringe at someone you've outgrown. The cringe is the receipt of change, not the evidence of failure. Psychologists call this temporal self-appraisal. To feel good about who you are right now, your brain quietly creates distance from who you used to be. It exaggerates the gap on purpose. The past self gets slightly dimmed. The present self gets slightly polished, more mature, more reasonable, more correct. Your brain isn't trying to be objective. It's trying to create a stable sense of progress. There's a second effect happening too, something researchers call the end of history illusion. Your brain believes that whoever you are today is basically the finished version. You know you've changed a lot to get here, but you quietly assume the changing is mostly done, which is why your past self feels like a stranger, and your present self feels permanent. Spoiler, it isn't. You'll probably think the same thing about today, 5 years from now. But here's something even stranger. The people who never cringe at their past selves often aren't changing very much at all. Growth creates contrast, and contrast creates discomfort. Imagine climbing a mountain. The higher you climb, the farther away the starting point looks. If the starting point still looks exactly the same, you probably haven't moved very far. The same thing happens psychologically. Growth changes your perspective, and perspective changes your relationship with the past. So how do you hold this feeling differently? First, treat cringe as data, not a verdict. When the feeling hits, don't ask, "Was I an idiot?" Ask, "What changed?" The intensity of the cringe is often proportional to the distance you've traveled. That's a strange kind of compliment. Second, separate the person from the moment. You weren't a fundamentally flawed person back then. You were simply operating with the information, confidence, and self-understanding you had at the time. Judging that version of yourself by today's standards is like criticizing someone for not owning a map they hadn't drawn yet. Third, assume you're still mid-story. If the end of history illusion convinces you that you're done changing, it also quietly convinces you to stop taking risks, because risk only feels safe when you believe you still have room to grow. Remind yourself, this version isn't final either. Some of your opinions today will probably make a future version of you cringe, and that's okay, because growth doesn't stop. Fourth, extend the same patience forward. If you'll eventually look back at today and wince a little, that means today's choices don't need to be perfect either. You're allowed to be a draft. Every version of you has been. Here's the model to hold on to. You are not one fixed person looking back at a flawed earlier draft. You are a sequence of honest attempts, each one doing its best with what it had. The cringe isn't proof you were wrong. It's proof you didn't stop. So the next time an old photo surfaces, or an old message resurfaces, or an old version of you says something through the screen, let the cringe pass through without flinching from it. It's not an accusation. It's a quiet signal that you kept moving. And somewhere ahead, a future version of you is going to look back at today with that same small, knowing wince. Not because you failed, but because you didn't stay still long enough to.